Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Management, a VUCA perspective. We're discussing core concepts. And as we get deeper and deeper into understanding how brands interact with its consumer end, and it presents a variety of challenges and a variety of opportunities, we will explore the hierarchies and the various structures and constructs that keep a brand going. And these present unique sets of challenges and a unique set of opportunities for marketers as well. And I'll take you on that particular journey further. I'm your friend and guide on this amazing journey, Siddhi Bhattacharyya. So, in the words of one of the foremost minds when it comes to marketing, advertising, branding, and strategic thinking, Seth Godin, he says, every interaction in any form is branding. Now, when brands collaborate with each other, they create a route to joint successes. There may be certain skill sets, there may be certain capabilities which one brand may have and the other may not entirely possess the same, and this gives room for synergies to be created. Brands can create these synergies with like-minded compatriots or brands and co-create that particular value for themselves as well as their end consumers. So, this brings us to the deeper understanding of brand hierarchies and constructs. Let's understand co-branding in a little more detail as we go forward. Co-branding is creating superior market value through brand partnerships. So, what you do is you typically tag along with other people or they tag along with you and you create value which is more than what you could have personally as a brand created. There are various strategies in modern marketing which actually help you do this, and there are various forms of brand partnerships which we'll get into, and there are successful implementation strategies for the same, which is what we'll uncover today as we go and dive deeper into the best practices in the dynamic world of co-branding. So, let's understand co-branding at a strategic overarching level. By definition, what you see is co-branding is also called dual branding, which means that there are two players who are being showcased here in the entire exercise and at least two or more. So, therefore, it can be multiple, but ideally it is two, maximum three, so that there is not too much clutter in that particular conversation, and together they leverage a combined brand equity and create enhanced customer value propositions so that the customer understands the messaging clearly, understands who all are involved and what they have to really say that should interest the customer. There is a very clear strategic purpose to that particular end. Here it is used to strengthen market positioning, expand the customer base, reduce product introduction costs and create differentiated offerings in very competitive marketplaces. So, that is how strategy wise you take a certain objective and meet that when you create the co-branding partnership. And when you do so, you create value in the entire process. There is synergistic value and that exceeds what either brand could have achieved independently. So, definitely working together is something which adds to the benefit of both brands and also creates value which customers actually perceive and they also appreciate. So, it can be premium pricing, it can be increased sales volumes and enhanced brand perception. So, a variety of objectives can be met by this entire example. Now, there is a sophisticated marketing approach which co-branding actually follows and it deliberately associates to create mutually beneficial outcomes with another partner. This allows companies to pool their brand equity together and use their individual distinctive strengths, each complementing the other, and they also offset the weaknesses that may exist with each other, and that is how it works best synergistically. and it extends beyond simple promotion and can genuinely integrate the brand experiences that consumers experience on multiple levels. There are four primary forms of co-branding. There is same company co-branding. In this example, there could be a single company which has multiple owned brands together. So, let's say Procter & Gamble is the mothership company which will have a variety of brands underneath. So, it could have Ariel, it could have Vicks, it could have Pantene. A variety of brands could exist under the overarching mothership brand. So, therefore, once the mothership brand actually deals with all these individual brands at their own levels and bringing them together, tries to create synergy between all of these, that can help. So, an example here is General Mills proposing both Trix cereal and Yoplait yogurt in the same campaign as a breakfast. So, this could be something where both the sub-brands of the larger General Mills brand can actually be brought together in one particular ad or offering. Then you could have something like a joint venture co-branding. Here, two or more independent companies create that kind of a partnership. For example, GE and Hitachi light bulbs in Japan, or City Platinum Select AA Advantage Visa Signature credit card. So, here City is one, Visa is one, there are two brands collaborating. Here GE is one and Hitachi is one. So, you again see the collaboration happening. Multiple sponsor co-branding also happens. They form a strategic alliance. For example, the Taligent technological partnership between Apple, IBM and Motorola is something that has been created for them to push those particular platforms through. In the retail space, you can have retail establishments which share physical locations and optimize space and maximize the profits. For example, Pizza Hut, KFC and Taco Bell restaurants, they collaborate on these and they actually pool that particular space, so they get the buyers and they can actually all share in the common pool of customers turning up there. So, each of these forms of co-branding represents a different structural approach to brand partnerships, varying the depth of integration and strategic commitment between each of the party players. Now, companies typically select the most appropriate model based on what their marketing objectives are, what kind of resources they are going to latch on to, and how do they see this going forward. So, all of these factors come into play when it comes to co-branding as an exercise. Now, what are the strategic advantages of co-branding? You get, obviously, like we spoke of, enhanced market positioning. So, products can be more convincingly positioned by leveraging combined strengths and association of multiple brands. So, you can have a washing machine brand and you can have a detergent brand partnering together. Both different manufacturers, different independent makers, but working together. You can also expand your customer base because co-branding opens opportunities to attract new consumers and creates new channels by combining the loyal customer bases of both brands. And so, they are able to tap into untapped market segments which were prior out of their reach. Again, it showcases accelerated market adoption. Here, two well-known images. Co-branding can reduce the cost and time of product introduction, and it can increase how soon consumers adopt you, and these enhanced brand recognition and trust aspects are increased in this particular space. Also, if there is certain amount of knowledge transfer, co-branding provides valuable learning opportunities about customers and how other companies approach them, and it facilitates the transfer of marketing expertise between the partner organizations. The automotive industry in particular has successfully leveraged these co-branding benefits multiple times, and they have created partnerships that have expanded their market reach and accelerated product adoption as well. Luxury car manufacturers partnering with premium audio brands, automotive companies collaborating with tech firms. There are various ways these partnerships have actually blossomed. Obviously, they don't partner at times with their own competition, but they typically try and marry some sort of synergy so that there are tangible business results for both parties involved. Now, there are certain potential challenges and risks also in the entire scenario, and those also need to be understood fairly well before people jump headlong into it. So, you can ensure your brand stays true to its course. If you don't, then you can actually risk brand dilution. So, you control that particular aspect. You can't become aligned with another brand and they take the higher space in consumers' minds, and you have to relinquish some control over your brand perception and management. But that should not become too detrimental to your particular brand's stature. Again, in terms of performance expectations, consumers expect co-branded products to be typically higher, and therefore there is a risk if the offering fails to deliver on its enhanced value proposition. So, if you're teaming up, it better work. If it doesn't, then the backlash will come at both of you and it will be more severe because you have taken that particular step to bring another party into this sacred fold where consumer and brand were already existing. There could be an equity imbalance as well, because if brands have significantly different levels of equity, it may result in uneven benefits. So, if a brand is more popular, it may derive more benefits out of the entire exercise compared to the weaker brand which is there, and it can create a disadvantage which the stronger brand will then potentially capture. It can also work vice versa, because if there is some sort of a gap because of the less powerful brand, then the stronger brand also gets besmirched because of that particular inadequacy, and those things also have to be figured out. The other part is overexposure risk, because brands that enter numerous co-branding arrangements risk overexposure, and then meaningful associations cease to exist, and that makes the original brand less valuable because the consumer is a bit confused at the end of the day, and they can't understand who is it that the brand actually is talking like and who they want to represent. So, those are the challenges in this particular case. Co-branding has the numerous advantages we spoke of, but it also has these significant challenges and requires careful management in the entire process. How can you do these? You can have these through partnership evaluation. You can actually look at explicit contractual agreements and an ongoing monitoring of all brand health metrics so that your brand does not go off the rails. Now, what are the essential requirements for successful co-branding? First and foremost, there needs to be independent brand equity on both sides of the table. So, both brands must independently have their particular following, have consumers who look up to them, and they have sufficient amount of awareness and positive brand image to begin the conversation. Otherwise, there will be only one person who is benefiting if the weaker person benefits from the stronger one, or the stronger one takes the cake away and the weaker one doesn't even get any sort of outcome out of the entire exercise. So, this is one particular thing. Then there is a logical brand fit. Both need to have something to bring to the table. So, for example, that famous washing machine and dish and detergent example, the washing machine washes clothes, the detergent is the agent which helps clean the clothes. So, both have a very fist and glove kind of relationship, and that is something that which can give you a logical brand fit. Again, complementary qualities are similar in that sense, because consumers respond more favorably to co-brands that offer these complementary qualities. So, one takes part of one particular action, the other looks into the other aspects, and they together balance the entire activity of the brand proposition which the consumer is finally receiving. And organization wise, these two organizations must also have aligned values and goals. So, it typically is best when the parent brand is the same and its offspring brands collaborate together, because they come from the same parent, and so therefore, they share the goals, the values, the culture of the organization as such. And therefore, successful co-branding requires more than just selecting a popular partner brand. The strategic alignment we spoke of has to happen across multiple dimensions, and it has to create genuine value for both the brands that are involved and their customers. And it has to have effective co-branding relationships which come from brand compatibility, audience overlap, and a long-term strategic fit. Now, what are the operational considerations in co-branding arrangements? First and foremost, you need a robust legal framework so that none of you is actually at the burnt end of the stick. So here you will have to have clearly defined ownership rights, usage permissions, quality standards and dispute resolution measures. The other part is financial arrangements, where you determine what kind of equitable financial structures need to be created so that the brands that are involved, they have more deeply invested in production, paying the licensing fees and royalties to the other brand. So if those are the considerations, those should be formalized and the financial arrangements should be made accordingly. Third way is marketing coordination, because integrated marketing programs are required for certain things like co-branding, and this has to be done in careful coordination so that both brands have an equal voice and they equally work these parts of marketing and they satisfy the brand guidelines of all involved partners. This becomes exceptionally challenging when you enter the space of events, because events typically have sponsors and sponsors come from a various number of industries and they sponsor one particular event because the event feature actually sort of gels with the audience that they want to tap into. So hence events are one particular place where marketing coordination becomes the toughest and it is a big challenge for people to manage. And then there needs to be an exit strategy. So there should be clear parameters for potential dissolution, including the timelines, asset distribution, customer communication protocols that now we are parting our ways. All of these things need to happen properly with clear communication in all of these aspects. There are successful partnerships which require sophisticated legal, financial and ops infrastructure to support that implementation. One Nabisco executive famously articulated, giving away your brand is a lot like giving away your child. You want to make sure everything is perfect. It's almost like parents giving their daughter's hand away in marriage. So it's very close to that kind of a feeling, and brands typically are very, very careful when they come to creating co-branding arrangements. Now, there is a strategic assessment framework which can be used for seeing how brand alliances are structured and how they can be truly fruitful. At the base, you want to know that knowledge transfer is going to happen. So, how much of it is going to happen? Will the partnership actually facilitate some sort of valuable learning? Will you come to know who your consumer is better? Will you be able to understand insights from that particular interaction better? Will you be able to get to know who they are, where they are, how much they spend, what kind of preferences they have? So, some sort of knowledge transfer potential is definitely the base of all of this. Then there is a brand equity impact. No brand will want to enter a partnership until and unless it strengthens the brand. If it dilutes the brand, no brand worth the salt is interested. Then it has a complementarity in their capabilities so that partners address each other's capability gaps and fill them up as well. And finally, that all leads to strategic alignment, and the partnership has the ability to advance their core business objectives, because each may have very specific business objectives. The entire partnership needs to be structured such so that these particular partnerships actually give that fruit of a core business objective being met in the strategic alignment. Now, when we come to ingredient branding, which can be brought in as part of a particular product, what we look at here really is, it is a specialized form of co-branding, very, very highly specific, and creates brand equity for materials, components or parts contained within other branded products which are the host products. So, you can have an HP computer with Intel inside. You can have a particular cooking oil with oryzanol or omega 3. Various examples abound, but these are ways in which you actually put in certain amount of ingredient branding within the construct of your particular brand or product. This strategy helps elevate the components from anonymous commodities to value adding branded elements and can influence consumer purchase decisions. Now, how is this strategically of value? When you have host products with weaker brand equity, the ingredient brands provide important signals of quality and differentiation. So it gives you a reason to buy the host product because of the ingredient product being coupled with it. And this ingredient supplier is the one which creates the pull through demand and gives you the premium pricing opportunities as the host. This approach transforms B2B suppliers into consumer facing brands, and it gives them enhanced market power and reduces their price sensitivity as well. So, ingredient branding is one of the most successful applications of co-branding strategy and can be created for various component manufacturers. It can be created host product brands, and consumers, all of them can actually simultaneously experience this. And this approach has transformed previously anonymous industrial materials into household names. So, there was a time when polyurethane foam was commonly used as insulation inside of refrigerators. But Godrej came up with a refrigerator ad where it celebrated this particular element and said polyurethane foam is puff. So, they renamed it as puff and said that puff is a very, very important element which you build into a fridge, and that keeps your fridge insulated and colder for longer. Every fridge had it, but they claimed that particular space first. So, co-branding, ingredient branding especially, they have a lot of import in the advertising space. And so, therefore, brands typically look for claims that they can quickly grab onto, and that gives them a differentiation and an advantage in the consumer's eyes. And this approach has previously transformed certain brands in this way, and that drives consumer preference and purchase decisions in its favor, and in across a variety of product categories this has been found to be successful. Now, there are iconic examples of successful ingredient brands. Intel Inside we have already spoken of. You've got Gore-Tex, you've got Dolby, and then you've got Vibran. So, all of these are elements which create that particular buyability of your end product brand because a certain other element has been added to it. A variety of brands demonstrate how previously anonymous components become key decision factors in consumer purchasing, and therefore, they command a premium, and that is how it creates sustainable competitive advantages over a longer period of time. This comes through specialized expertise and brand recognition. Intel has continuously spent a lot to establish its own brand, and that is how today, with partnerships with other technology manufacturers, it comes up as the chipset manufacturer featured on the devices, and that is how it powers the growth of those particular organizations and the brands that they have. Self-branded ingredients are also part of this entire conversation where a new frontier opens up. So, Westin's Heavenly Bed. Now, Westin Hotels typically has transformed the standard hotel mattress into a trademarked Heavenly Bed, which is a luxurious sleep experience. And this is something which is so popular that guests can purchase the mattress, the pillows, the sheets and other bedding products through an online catalog, and this has extended the product into the lives of the customer itself. DuPont has actually created material innovations which include the Teflon non-stick coating, Kevlar fiber and Tyvek house wrap, and these are used in creating consumer demand for these specific ingredients in products across multiple industries. And then there are proprietary performance features, things that you've worked on the tech side or on the product delivery side, and you develop these self-branded proprietary technologies. For example, cushioning systems in shoes, support structures for sneakers. These differentiate their products and create consumer preference for specific technical features, and these are where the shoe particularly actually gets a little fillip and is able to command a premium pricing. These self-branded ingredients present a strategic evolution in ingredient branding, and companies develop, trademark and promote their own proprietary components rather than partnering with external suppliers. So, these approaches give firms greater control over what they can use to differentiate their features, and it also creates opportunities to extend successful ingredients into new product lines and even at times into standalone offerings which are only found with that brand and none other. So, there is a certain rub off, a halo effect which is received when successful ingredient brands are formulated and incorporated. Here you will see that there is an initial quality signal which is given out when a certain ingredient brand is introduced. This ingredient brand serves as a quality cue and it speaks of that particular specific component as the reason for people to believe. It also gives expanded quality perception, hence the positive perception transfers to the overall host's product quality. It enhances the brand trust and finally it reinforces the positive evaluation of that particular brand by consumers and therefore it creates very beautiful interactions for consumers, like the Westin Heavenly Bed has created positive evaluations of other aspects of their hotel stay. That is the halo effect of the Westin Heavenly Bed. It has demonstrated how excellence in one particular branded component can elevate perceptions of the entire experience. There is a slight cognitive bias which is pushed in because of this halo effect that creates exponential value beyond the specific functional benefits of the ingredient itself. It creates that additional perceived value. So, functional versus perceived value. So, this is how the power of ingredient branding really works. Now, there are essential requirements for successful ingredient branding. At the basic level, you need to have a distinctive visual identity which would be in the form of a versatile symbol or a logo that signifies the ingredient's presence within that particular host product. Beyond this, there should be coordinated communication so that when you are running a strategic marketing campaign, you are involving collaborations with host manufacturers and retailers. So, it is a must have effectively communicating the ingredients advantages so that this particular trade body can push that information further and you can actually use it to demonstrate how you are superior to whatever else is available in the market. You offer genuinely superior performance or benefits and this can be communicated and experienced by the consumers. And finally, once this starts running in the common parlance of people, there is an overarching perceived importance of what has been added. So, consumers must believe that the ingredient significantly impacts the performance and success of the end product. So, this is critical to understand because this is pretty much equal to word of mouth, because this is what they are going to tell their friends and family and that is what is going to get you additional pretty much pre-sold other buyers. Intel has a very clear inside success story. So, therefore, Intel Inside gave the brand it partnered with an easy peasy 37% price premium just because Intel was part of the entire offering and it was the chipset manufacturer. Then it grew its market share by 80% because of Intel's dominant position in the PC processor market. It created about $12.8 billion in brand value and that was as of 2023 and 90% recognition. See, all of these things mean that people are buying, but the recognition, which again means top of mind awareness, is something which actually helps people remember and increases what we've discussed before, the lifetime value of that particular customer. They may not buy today, but tomorrow they end up buying. The presence of Intel Inside is something which will actually help them take that particular decision. So, this creates something called the brand value chain and let us understand that because it will create a lot of capabilities in a marketer's hands to execute a variety of marketing ideas and campaigns. So, what is the concept and purpose of a brand value chain framework? The brand value chain itself is structured approach to assessing the sources and outcomes of any item of brand equity, and it analyzes how marketing activities create these brand value across multiple stages. This is an overarching comprehensive framework, and it helps marketers understand the connections between their investments, consumer perceptions, their market performance, and ultimate financial returns at the end of the entire exercise. So, these are steps which help the brand value chain to be defined. Beyond this, you've got strategic applications of the same. This speaks of a framework which enables marketers to identify precisely where and how brand value is created or lost. What are the scenarios? What were people thinking? What were the reactions? Is something the brand wants to know. It helps therefore prioritize their investments and optimize marketing activities for getting the maximum impact. It also provides a common language for discussing brand value, and it helps creation with financial stakeholders, because at the end of the day value has to be measured, and money is one way to measure it very simply and significantly, and it helps in demonstrating the marketing contribution to business results. So, this is again critically important. Now, in the brand value chain framework, what we see is a representation of a significant advancement in our understanding of how marketing activities translate into financial outcomes. And so, by mapping the entire journey from marketing program investment through consumer mindset changes and therefore marketing performance impacts, it will actually show you how ultimately the shareholder value creation is being put out there. This model provides marketers with a powerful tool for strategic decision making and ROI analysis. The 4 stages in the brand value chain therefore are: the first part is the marketing program investment, because you have to start the program. So, hence you will have to invest in communications, trade support, product R&D, etc. to develop the brand. You may or may not choose to announce them right away, but this is the first step which needs to happen. Then you've got customer mindset, which needs to be understood and met. Here marketing activities influence customers' thoughts and feelings as they have become linked to the brand awareness, associations, attributes, attachment and activity. So, these are the various ways it becomes linked to the brand. If you are aware, then you are easily going to try and create a certain amount of association with that brand. You will have an attitude when it speak of that particular brand, and you will believe that the brand itself has a lot of attitude in a certain specific way. You will create as a consumer attachment with the brand, and you will do certain activities because of attachment. So, all of these factors come into play, and when you are interacting, there is certain amount of brand performance. This change provides the difference in consumer mindset after buying and actually showcasing what the response to that marketing was which led to that moment of buying. And so, therefore, it also showcases if there has been any shift in the market share, and also therefore the probability, which items sold, how much margin was there, how well did it do, etc. So, all these factors come into play, and finally, all of this boils down to creating shareholder value. This investment community considers brand market performance the first and the biggest when assessing overall shareholder value. So, there are various value multipliers in the entire brand value chain. At the program level, there is a program multiplier which determines how effectively marketing programs and their investments are impacting customer mindsets. This is one part. They look at program distinctiveness, relevance, integration, value and executional excellence, and one such example would be a highly distinctive and well executed campaign will have greater impact on consumer perceptions than a generic poorly executed one with the same level of money thrown at it, therefore investment. Then there are customer multipliers. Here you will see that it determines how effectively customer multiplier mindset changes, and it translates into market performance, because the customer is the one who actually in control of the demand. So that is why this is important to understand. And being influenced by competitive superiority, you want to showcase how you are keeping your own space alive through your channel, through your intermediary support, and even customer size and profile. Strong customer perceptions may not translate to sales if competitors match your offering or if the distribution channels don't support the brand properly. The third place is market itself, because again, the market is volatile, uncertain, and then complex, and finally ambiguous. So it is VUCA at the end of the day. Do remember that, and the individual meanings of all of these words of the acronym. Now, market multiplier actually showcases how the market performance translates into shareholder value, and this is like that one particular tide which raises all the boats, and that is how the market multiplier works. It shows affected areas which such as market dynamics, growth potential, risk profile, and brand contribution. So there are various things that can actually showcase the kind of metrics required to study the movement from the market. Strong sales performance may create greater shareholder value in high growth markets with limited competition than in saturated, highly competitive markets. Now, multiplier concepts is very critical to understand why similar marketing investments can produce dramatically different results, because each scenario is very different. These multipliers explain why two brands can spend equal amounts on a similarly targeted campaign yet achieve vastly different outcomes. This is true for the brand itself, because the way they align and the way they are being seen by consumers translates into a certain amount of equity. When you identify and optimize these particular multipliers, then marketers can actually see a significant increase in the return on their brand building investments without necessarily increasing their spending. Automotive industry, like we spoke of, has a variety of co-branding success stories. In terms of sound system partnerships, you will see companies like Bose, like Bang and Olufsen, like Harman Kardon, all of these participating and meeting with automotives to provide their products inbuilt into the automobiles, and it enhances the perceived vehicle quality and justifies a certain premium tag if they are carrying any. These partnerships create value for both the brands and associates cars with superior sound experiences. In terms of performance components, you will see performance components are part of the automakers and guild and form partnerships so that they can provide specialized component manufacturers like Brembo brakes and Pirelli tires to signal superior engineering and enhance their credibility with enthusiast audiences. Now, EVs are also coming about, so hence technology ecosystems become that much more critical and important. Electric vehicle manufacturers are increasingly partnering with green providers and technology companies to create integrated ecosystems around charging infrastructure and how they are connected with a variety of services and how they are looking after sustainability initiatives. So, overarching, this is something which works in the favor of co-branding partners. The automotive industry has embraced co-branding as a core strategy, and it stands to differentiate the products and enhance perceived value by showcasing the joint capabilities with their partner. Now, there is a certain evolution of retail based co-branding. You initially had in the 1980s and 1990s, you had traditional shared locations which were typically focused on fast food combinations like KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, etc. They maximize the space and increase customer traffic through complementary offerings. Then you had store within store concepts in the 2000s, which are called MBOs also, multiple business outlets. So, here you have a variety of brands operating within the retail space, and it gives to more sophisticated partnerships with branded boutiques inside department stores and specialty retailers which are hosting complementary brand experiences. In the case of lifestyle experience hubs which came about in 2010s, you will see development of integrated lifestyle destinations combining retail, dining and services like Barnes and Noble hosting. Now, Starbucks cafes are also to extend customers' dwell time and enhance shopping as an experience. And finally, we have the digital revolution taking the main stage. So, here there is a digital physical integration which has happened very, very strongly post 2020, and this is the latest evolution featuring technology companies which have created branded experiences, but these have been within the physical retail like Amazon's shop in shops and Kohl's and Apple sections at Best Buy. So, this is an offering within the larger construct of the retail space by another owned retailer. Then there is a financial dimension of co-branding arrangements. The biggest component of these being the licensing fee and royalty. Then you have revenue and that is the next bit which from sales comes in. Then you've got fixed fee structures, joint ventures and any partnerships that you have created because of which you get certain inflow, and then there are other arrangements at the end of things. So, financial arrangements between co-branding partners are widely based on that kind of partnership structure, the relative brand strengths and strategic objectives. This most common goal approaches involves the brand more deeply invested in production, paying a licensing fee plus ongoing royalty to its partner brand. So, it takes up that particular aspect of providing its space to a brand which is partnering with it and gets royalty out of the entire exercise. And this model typically ranges from the 2 to 8% of wholesale revenues depending on the industry and the brand strength which it carries. Alternative arrangements include revenue sharing models where both parties receive percentage of sales, and then there could be a fixed fee model that actually gives a minimum more predictable income, and the formal joint venture where both parties share investment costs and returns is also playing side by side. And each model creates a different incentive structure and risk profile that must align with strategic partnership goals as well. So, the psychology behind the successful co-branding is that you create your associative networks, your pool of customers starts to increase to a different level, you have the complementarity going in, you have dual enforcement because the dual brands which are partnershiping in that particular space, both of them are adding voice to that, and then there is schema congruity. So, which typically means that if there are moderately unexpected but unexplainable brand partnerships, then they create cognitive interests and that enhances people's memories and the processing while maintaining sufficient coherence of the believable. So, this is typically a psychological mechanism where co-branding actually trips and tricks the human mind to create belief systems which focus more on the effective partnerships between brands. And the more successful co-branding relationships leverage the cognitive principles to create experiences that feel absolutely new and they feel appropriate to the need or the proposition which was given up. Now, how do you measure co-branding success? You have certain KPIs which you can look at. You see the revenue impact because that's the first and the easiest thing to understand. The second part is brand equity effects because you are creating a certain amount of brand equity. Hence, you measure the changes of brand awareness, associations, considerations and preferences for which particular partner brand is going up, and you track the transfer of these associations between the brands and monitor for any negative spillover which could have devastating effects on both. Then you look at customer acquisition because this has a certain cost component given the fact that it's primarily digital nowadays. So, evaluate the effectiveness in reaching new customer segments which is core to the entire business growth aspect we have discussed, and it includes demographic expansion, channel penetration and cross-selling between partner brand customer bases. And finally, you need to look at partnership health, because at the end of the day, the organization cannot suffer. So, that has to be kept very, very clearly in mind. You assess operational effectiveness of the partnership and including communication secrecy and efficiency, conflict resolution and mutual satisfaction with financial and strategic outcomes. The comprehensive measurement of co-branding initiatives requires examining both the exact monetary exchange, the hard financial metrics and the softer brand perception indicators, which are typically done through brand tracks and such tools. So, both things have to work hand in hand and create that synergy towards which one wants to take it further. You have to have cultural considerations in global co-branding, because culture shifts when it comes to geographies and demographics. So, hence the cultural compatibility is critical to understand. Partner brands have to have compatible cultural associations and meanings across target markets. Then they need linguistic implications where they combine the brand names, but they must avoid negative connotations in local languages. So, again, Vodafone plus Idea, they formed VI, Y or V, whichever way it is pronounced. So, therefore, these are considerations where you have to ensure that you are not running afoul of all of these things. Then consumer perceptions need to be driven, because these also vary across cultures and there are different attitudes towards brand combinations in different markets. And finally, there is the relationship expectations. So, here partnership management must accommodate different cultural approaches to business relationships. So, it has to give that particular kind of leeway. Now, digital platforms and co-branding innovation go hand in hand. App integration is the easiest, because nowadays everybody's first layer of interaction or knowledge gathering or discovery is the mobile phone, the handheld. Then the next part is getting influencers to do multi-brand collaborations, because they have the audience and they can tap into all these audiences in a big way. Beyond this, you can also create what is the first stage of the metaverse, virtual co-branded environments, which give both brands the opportunity to participate and mingle together, although virtually. The most powerful, simplest of the co-branding was the same company co-branding strategy, which we can look at. It could be portfolio synergy. So, you could have putting in breakfast as a measure. So, you could have cereal going with the yogurt to create breakfast combinations. Then you have brand extension support, which means that whichever brand is already established, you use that to support new category entries, such as Dove leveraging its skincare credibility to launch hair care. So, from skincare, it has started with hair care shampoos and other products and conditioners as well, and therefore, now does dual branding during introduction, because it requires the brand to cover all the bases simultaneously. Then there is premium tier signaling. So, it takes up that particular price point and jacks it up and creates special sub brands within a portfolio to signal some particular offering is the more premium offering in the set. And this, like Toyota's introduction of Lexus, it gave certain features like assisted drive, and those features actually helped within the premium Toyota models also. So, this is something which is a hand me down from Lexus to Toyota. So, these aspects are also part of the same company co-branding strategies. If you see DuPont, they have always gone with their ingredient branding bit. So, Teflon is the topmost, then there is Kevlar, then there is Tyvek, there is Korean, and there is Sorona, which has the least. So, this is how DuPont has actually been carrying forward its ingredient branding and creating more and more instances where people can connect with what that particular product is, what it does, what's the brand name, etc. Now, multi-category branding success demonstrates how a business to business materials company can create significant consumer brand equity through consistent quality, innovative applications and strategic marketing investments. Nowadays, you have to also keep in mind sustainable competitive advantages and the consumer pricing power in otherwise almost commoditized market scenarios. So, there is a very particular role of the visual identity in the entire act of ingredient branding, and that needs to be understood very, very well. Visual identity plays an extremely crucial role in the entire ingredient branding success, and the most effective ingredient brands can use are symbols which function as seals. Now, seals instantly communicate certain amount of quality and a certain sense of authority, authenticity, etc. And these are visual elements. You can create them in a certain way that they look like stamps of approval. And these must be simple enough to work at small sizes on packaging, because in packaging the scale of that particular unit keeps changing, but yet it should be distinctive enough to be immediately recognizable, and that is the key. The top of mind awareness bit is the key here. The consistency and prominence of these visual elements across product categories and manufacturers creates cumulative impact that builds brand recognition and value. The color often plays a strategic role in these visual systems, and there are many successful ingredient brands which adopt distinctive color schemes that stand out on host product packagings, and that is how it actually helps the host product packaging to also shine through. Now, there are very deep ethical considerations when it comes to co-branding relationships. First and foremost, you need to ensure that contractual protection is there for ethical breaches, that is at the base level. Beyond this, you should have transparent participation and teams which are looking after that entire merger between the two organizations. The third thing you need to look at is creating a certain amount of due diligence, so that there is an ethical assessment of what potential partners can come on board and what will be the metrics to actually assess and keep them with you. And finally, there should be shared values which both brands or more than two brands can actually collaborate with. So, these companies must carefully evaluate not just the current ethical standing and potential partners, but also their governance systems and risk factors that again could lead to future ethical changes. And again, the whole concept of VUCA is to ensure that you have prepared yourself for any eventuality which may come from any particular quarter. Now, how do you leverage customer multipliers in the brand value chain? You look at competitive analysis and see what else is happening in that space, how competitive offerings stack up against yours, what is their positioning, and so therefore, how do you identify your particular genuine points of supremacy that can be emphasized in marketing communications. You create truly distinctive value propositions, and you actually then create incremental improvements as you learn and go along with the process. If there is channels through which sales is happening, you need to engage the channels, keep them chatty and happy, and so that the channels provide that necessary intermediary support which actively helps reinforce the brand positioning, because they are the ones who are going to be talking on your behalf with the next layer of consumer. Beyond this, there is customer portfolio optimization. So, at times what will happen is, if you look at customer base, the way they are structured, they will try and identify and target the most valuable segments. Typically, any format of sales will actually try and follow this particular process. They will develop strategies to increase that particular share of wallet with high value customers, and it will try and improve the profitability of whosoever is spending less, the marginal customers. So, you integrate that experiential design in the overarching scenario and you implement that positioning across all the touch points. So, if there is a certain amount of activity, risk is bound to follow. So, you have to ensure you are protected by a contract, you have continuous monitoring systems where you regularly do brand tracking, you check your social media through ORM, then you do QA and you keep checking that your product quality is not slipping. And relationships also need governance. So, you have joint steering committees to decide upon the future courses of action. You've got regular executive reviews so that people can share notes and understand how things are progressing. And then you have cross functional working groups. So, again, ensuring that each particular function is brought in to the best extent possible, you look at those aspects. As we go forward, you will see in co-branding, you will have a lot of data partnerships, you will have sustainability alliances because sustainability is going to be the next big thing. It already has started catching the world by storm. People will be more invested in experiences. So, ecosystems that foster experiences will be very important. Metaverse will come up in a big way. So, collaborations for the metaverse will be there and all of this will run on a lot of data, a lot of touch points. So, AI will be there picking data up and parsing it through algos and through machine learning. So, it can learn that particular aspect and immediately start applying it to the real world scenario. So, here co-branding will have a strategic selection framework where the first thing is you need something to be solved. So, the assessment needs to understand what gaps are there, what need gaps exist. So, these could be capability gaps, resource constraints, strategic objectives that are unmet and these might be addressed through the partnership. Then there needs to be an evaluation once you made up your mind that hey, I am going for a partnership, then you will look for partner evaluation, which is the right kind of partner, what is their mindset, what are their value systems, etc. And are they aligned with our brand equity, the capability that we are seeking and the strategic understanding of approaching the particular subject. And then you will see the structure of the partnership coming into place, whether it is ingredient, joint promotion, retail co-location, etc. What kind of engagement will it be and implement all of this. So, you will have an execution roadmap where certain things will happen at certain time. You will have a legal, you will have a financial, you will have an operational leg and all of these things will help create that implementation in a fuller way. And you can get fantastic ROI as a result. $3.2 million in initial investment is the direct cost of partnership development and launch. You can see brand equity lift by something like 12%. You can actually see impact like 8.7 million on revenue and about 2.5 times or more financial ROI growth. So, this is something which has impacted brands in the past. You can also experience all of these through creating something that is distinct, relevant, integrated, creating value and moving towards excellence. So, this is the core of co-branding and what it promises. And therefore, you have to look that you have a strategic intention which is being met. You are ensuring that both complement each other in creating customer value. There is balanced brand equity for involved partners. You create proactive risk management steps so that you are safe on all sides and at the end of the day it must create value. So, that value chain optimization is the final end result of the entire exercise. So, with all of this, next time we will look at how to make a brand faster, sharper, smoother, more capable, keep it nimble. So, until next time, this is me signing off.
Hello and welcome to this piece of literary snippet. We usually know William Shakespeare as the most revered figure in the history of English literature. But we often tend to forget that he has also been one of the most hated figures in literature. And here I'm not talking only about those boys and girls who have to memorize long sections from Macbeth or King Lear or Julius Caesar before they can go and sit for their school or college exams. But I'm also talking about people who are themselves quite famous authors. Tolstoy, for instance, considered the writings of Shakespeare to be, and I quote, crude, immoral, vulgar, and senseless. George Bernard Shaw absolutely loathed Shakespeare, as he did Homer. But perhaps no other criticism about Shakespeare is more damaging than the one which says that Shakespeare is a marvelous storyteller, provided someone has told him the story earlier. Now, this piece of criticism is particularly damaging because it is true. None of Shakespeare's plays contain any original story whatsoever. They are all written using pre-existing materials, pre-existing stories. Now, does that diminish the stature of Shakespeare as a dramatist? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. See you in the next episode of Literary Snippets.